Well, let's speak now to Conservative MP Philp, who is among those calling for the introduction of tighter rules governing strike action. Morning to you. Thanks very much for joining us.
Good morning.
What sort of rules are you talking about? Because there are already onerous rules in place.
Well, there are, in terms of the ballot you require to call a strike, but unfortunately it looks like companies like the organisations like the RMT are going too far on Southern, and I think we need a law to require strikes on critical public infrastructure to be reasonable and proportionate, and you'd have a High Court judge deciding what is reasonable and what is proportionate. On Southern, the conductors are arguing about who presses the button to open and close the doors. It's a relatively minor dispute. There is no safety issue because 1.5 million trains in the last 5 years have run this way without a single fatality, and yet 300,000 people are being prevented from getting into work for the better part of a month. So it's not reasonable, it's not proportionate, and I believe they're abusing the powers they have as a trade union to call strikes, and I think the government should legislate, and as a backbench MP, I'm calling on the government to do that.
OK, and we are going to speak to the unions later, and we have spoken to them during this dispute as well. They are clear. One of the reasons they're striking, they're very clear, and you already disputed this, it is about safety as far as they're concerned.
Well, I'm afraid that's just a facade. As I said, 1.5 million trains have run in the last 5 years with driver-operated doors, not a single fatality. Every single London Underground train runs with driver-operated doors perfectly safely. A third of all of the UK's surface trains run using this system. I think the truth came out yesterday when Sean Hoyle, who is the president of the RMT, was uncovered by the Sunday Times as saying that his real objective is, and I'm using his words, to bring down the government, and he went on to say he wanted to try and replace the capitalist system with a socialist system. So Sean Hoyle, the president of the RMT, in his own words, has admitted what his real objectives are.
And again, we've spoken to the unions. They say, striking is a last resort, and this is an ongoing dispute that's with the company they've had for many months now.
Well, yeah, you're right. It's been going on for many months. But, nobody's going to lose their job. Nobody's getting a pay cut. Every single train that runs with 2 members of staff, a driver and a conductor, will be scheduled to run with 2 members of staff in the future. This dispute is about who presses the button to open and close the doors. And you've got to ask yourself, is it reasonable to stop 300,000 people from getting to work for the better part of a month simply over who presses the button to open and close the doors? And the answer is it's not reasonable. And by the way, it's not just the official strike action on strike days like we have this week. Outside of strike days, we have an overtime ban, a work to rule, huge numbers of drivers and conductors calling in sick. So the service is being disrupted on non-strike days as well as strike days.
Philp, thank you very much for your time here on Breakfast this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.